you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Very good. So I was just babbling on about nothingness, which is what I tend to do as I wait for beautiful humans like you to join me. So Nicole, tell everyone first off, foremost, where you are in the world and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm coming from Buffalo, New York, and I found Rachel in last winter. I believe it was on Facebook.
I think
and
it was.
And so is it embarrassing to admit that I don't exactly remember that? I was in a very transitional time in my life, and I had been through a number of different trauma therapies and holistic therapies, both as a practitioner and receiving. And so I had been kind of looking for a way to pull it all together, both professionally and personally. And that's kind of where you came in and pulled it all together with me.
And so Nicole, when we started, right, about almost 6 months ago, because we're coming towards the end, tell them a little bit about you had, like you mentioned, you've already had some experience with a lot of the work, some of the work we've been doing, but where were you at in terms of having a coaching business? And yeah, just tell them a little bit about, like, if we can get a picture of Nicole 6 months ago, where were you at?
So 6 months ago, I did not anticipate that coaching was going to be something that I chased as a full-time career. I'm a kindergarten teacher by trade, and so I can teach, and I do teach, and I'm great with communicating. And so what I really wanted to gain from the practice was the understanding of how the somatics worked. And I wanted to do it as a way that was first and foremost beneficial to me. And so I thought, well, maybe if I turn around in 6 months from now, help a few other people, that would be really cool too. But I think this is something that's been missing from my personal practice, and I want to know more about it. So that's the way that I always tried to grow. And so we had talked a lot about how I suffered from an anxiety disorder, just a generalized anxiety disorder. And I came from a long line of people that had a very fixed mindset about this anxiety disorder that my entire family had. And we all did the last name stomach, and we all have it. And so we all just find our different ways.
Just accept it, right? Suck it up, and it's part of your life, and move on.
Congratulations. Enjoy your anxiety. It's been passed down from generation to generation. And so
very familiar, Nicole. I'm pretty sure I heard the same story.
So, yeah, I joked that the diagnosis originally, before I had a medical diagnosis, the original diagnosis came from my older cousin and her sister. And they both explained it to me that this was just a gift given to us from our family that we all learned to live with.
What an amazing gift.
Anybody else think this sucks, though? Like, am I the only one who doesn't want to accept this as our immovable permanent fate? So I came at it from a very cognitive standpoint, and I researched it, and I went to therapy, which my entire family thought was bananas. And you know, I learned a lot and I grew a lot. I was super self-aware, but I was not necessarily any less anxious. I had a really good handle on communicating all of the things that gave me anxiety and why they did. So I did a lot of different holistic therapies. I was certified as a Reiki master. I practiced for a while until I didn't. And so that just a lot of things came along along the years that were the same way. I'm going to do this until I stop doing it. And this feels great, but it's not solving anything. And I was walking around slapping Band-Aids on broken arms because I didn't have a way to tie it all together and manage my self-care. I mean, self-care wasn't something that we did. We just squelched all of our thoughts and feelings down and then talked about how anxious and stressed we were. And that's the model that I had. And if we weren't all commiserating about being miserable, then what were we even doing? So
right, then we had nothing to talk about anymore.
Exactly. If we're not joining together about how hard work is and how stressful raising children is, what are we even doing with our lives? This is our so it was really you know, a lot of my family thought this was hippy dippy woo woo stuff, and they wondered what I was up to now. And there's one more thing that, you know, that crazy girl is doing to try to beat the lump in your stomach. And And so when I came into it, I really came into it with, well, I'm going to learn some more, and I'm going to practice the things that work for me. But a lot of this feeling stuff is outside of my comfort zone. So, I'm a coach, and coaches are supposed to be removed. It's the players that do the work, right? And so I came in really feeling confident that I was going to have this layer of removal, all of my self-protection anxiety patterns in place. And I was like, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to cherry pick, and I'm going to do what works for me. And then I was realizing about, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks into the program, I was like, never answer a question that Rachel asked in class, because the spotlight will go on you and you will have to do the work and be vulnerable.
And she's not going to let you get away with your shit.
No, she's going to call you out when you speak negatively about yourself. And, if there is a chance that you are trying to fake the work, you are going to be brought into the spotlight. Let me show you what it looks like, Nicole. You're going to be my client in front of everyone today. So I had to do the work, which was so hard at first because it was outside of my comfort zone. And so it really took a while to settle in and lean into it and experience and go, oh, well, this is a regulated nervous system. Well, I have this.
So Nicole, tell them, wait, I want you to hold on. I'm going to pause there for one moment. And by the way, none of this is planned, guys. So I'm curious, when you did start to experience sometimes, oh, wow, that's a regulated nervous system. Can you describe what it was like?
So when I talked about how I walked around putting Band-Aids on broken arms, and I'm going to the massage therapist, and I'm going to the float therapist, and I'm going to acupuncture, and I'm going to Reiki, and I'm going to yoga, and I'm going to meditation, I am doing all of the things, right? But I'm just doing them as like one-offs, and they've never been integrated part of my system. So I get this little taste of peace and serenity, and my jaw is just ever so slightly unclenched, or I'm aware that it was clenched at least. And so I never felt fully at peace. I was like, oh, this is a relaxing activity, and I've enjoyed this 1 hour break of my life.
And now let me go back.
Because we've got a lacrosse practice, and I've got, PTA meeting, and I'm going to go right back to being anxious when this hour of yoga has finished and wrapped up. And so I never really felt that kind of peace that I can carry through my day. And I never felt that kind of peace that made me want to stay there forever. That, like,
ooh, that's so good.
When I heard, when people bring up the term self-care is such a buzzword, right? We have to go get our nails done, and we have to.
I'm always like, that's not self-care, people.
Right. Right. So that was always how I defined self-care. It was always just like this one-off treat that you're going to do as an escape from your life. And like really lean into that nervous system regulation, you're not only changing, like, you're changing how you show up. You're changing thoughts, you're changing your feelings, you're changing your behaviors, you're changing the way that you show up in your life. I'm not showing up as an anxious person who's trying to control everything, and I'm not scheduling my time to be relaxed twice a month.
I love that. Scheduling. Okay, for this 1 hour, you can relax.
Exactly. I'm going to be at peace from 9 to 10 on Saturday. Mommy's got yoga. Nobody interrupts.
And then after that, we can all be anxious again.
And then after that, I will jump right back into the 37 things that we need to do before 5 p.m. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
That hour.
So
I'll let you through the next 24,
So
and it's
what I hear is you doing this work and beginning, really embodying a regulated nervous system on a more consistent basis allows you to feel that feeling that maybe you feel during that hour of yoga, right? Or during that massage or that Reiki session longer and on a more consistent basis throughout your day.
It's become my default setting instead of something that I sample into because it's going to make me feel good.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It went from being like, I went from being a person who was like, oh, happiness is an achievable thing that I need to go out and seek and get and hold, but it never really lasts for long, guys. This is how we get happiness. As we get it, it's gone. That's the nature of happiness. And that was like the mindset that I walked in with 6 months ago. And I even walked in thinking, well, here is one of those other things that might just be the tangible happiness thing that lasts.
Just going to touch on it.
I'm going to grab that tangible happiness.
You came in thinking, maybe I'll help some people, and tell them a little bit, literally, not even 6 months later, it's about 5 months later. Tell them, what are you up to right now?
So I guess the best way to start that story would be to say that I went out to a cup of coffee with a girlfriend of mine several months ago. And I was telling her about how great all of this stuff was and how much I was really enjoying it and how it had shifted my mindset. And I had made these behavioral pattern changes and was really incorporating all of this and coming at life from just like a more fulfilling, stable, calm place. And she could see it and she complimented my happiness. And I was like, but I have no place to practice this, so I can't go anywhere with it because there was my fixed mindset jumping right back in as a form of self-protection. It's too bad when this 6 months is over, this will all be done. And she was, hold on a minute. How do you know this for sure? And I said, well, I've looked at the real estate prices and I'm a single parent. So I've got limitations. I've got limitations left and right. And I rattled them all off. And so she really kind of was like, well, you just spent all of this time talking about how you're looking at things from multiple perspectives and you're sitting with things and there isn't any other way that you could possibly like get a foot in the door anywhere, like calling a salon and just saying, hey, when you close for the night or when you're closed on Mondays, can I come in and share your space and rent from you for like 1 day a week? So that's where the idea came from. And as soon as I got home from that cup of coffee, I started Googling and making some phone calls. And on Monday, will be moving into a salon suite. And it is
Monday, literally like 2 days, 3 days away.
3 days away. I have boxes. I'm very grateful that we're in a very small screen right now because I'm surrounded by boxes of things that will be moving me into my office where I will be practicing somatic breath work with my own clients, where I will be practicing Reiki with my own clients, where I will be meditating with my own clients. So I'm very excited.
For a moment, I want every single person who's listening to this either live or replay, right? Because I know most people watch the replay. Nicole came in thinking, maybe this is mostly for me, but maybe I'll do something with it. Maybe not. I'm a school teacher. That's my job. Now she is opening a brick and mortar, a space where she is going to be helping people heal.
It was I feel like it's a nice arc too, because people want to say that it's very, very different from what I do, but because I work with small children, co-regulation has always been a thing.
Yeah.
With a lot of the things that I've worked, that I've learned from Rachel, I've brought back into my classroom. I've taught them to my aides. I've taught them to my colleagues. They're very useful. Children co-regulate up until age 7. They have no skills.
Right.
And so a very big part of my job was to be able to teach those skills and to be able to give a name to it and to be able to practice that work in my classroom. So it's a nice parallel that I'll be able to work with adults now as well. And I'm super excited to welcome people into my space.
Oh my God. I'm so freaking excited for you and so inspired, right? There's so many people that I think embark on this journey and they never make that step, that next step to actually follow whatever it is they're passionate about in the healing coaching world. I see so many people that think they need all their shit, all their ducks in the order before they get going. And the truth is, if that's you and you're listening, good luck, because your shit is never 100% in order, right? Your ducks are never all in order. But as long as you're willing, like Nicole and I were talking before this, like just stick your toe in somewhere and get started. Like you just don't really know what's possible. You just have to be willing to take a little bit of risk. But when you know how to regulate your nervous system, like Nicole does, taking that risk is so much easier than when your nervous system is in a complete frozen sympathetic state. I wanted to call it sympathetic state. That's what it's called. I'm like, I know everyone doesn't understand that, so I was trying to think of other words, but just go look it up and you'll know what it is. Yeah. Oh.
So I used to be able to think that I needed to know everything in advance, that I needed to come into any situation with as much information as humanly possible. And one of the things that made me super anxious about transitioning into a coaching career was I've not done this. I've done something else for 25 years and this is new and different, and I've never run a business. And while I'll still be teaching, and I'll be teaching people about their nervous system and about the ways that they can show up in a more calm and regulated and authentic way, it's still teaching, but there's so much of the business part that I didn't know that brought on a lot of anxiety. And so I had to then lean into the work to say, it's the newness that is making me anxious. It's not that I'm incapable. It's that I've never tried before. And it's that moment before you leap that your brain steps into protective mode to say, we don't have a default for this. Like, my brain regulates my breathing and all of my organ functions without me ever thinking about it, but it does that same thing for my feelings and the way that my body reacts as well. And so my body is trying to protect me from things that it has never experienced before that may potentially bring me danger. And when I tell myself that, when I take that step back to say, oh, here it is, now I can lean in and do the body work. Now I know I can lean in and do the breath work and get myself re-regulated to say to yourself, you're very capable. You're just doing something you've never done before.
Yes. I love that. Nicole, what would you say has been your favorite part over the last 5 months, 6 months together?
That's an easy question, actually. So when I came in to the group, one of the things, like I said, I came in from an intellectual standpoint. I wanted to gather information. I wanted to know more about how my brain and body worked. And I thought I was going to come out of this with all the intellectual information, like rationalize my way through this without actually having to feel it. And so learning to lean into the feelings was a big one. And I almost said that. But the thing that I learned that was more important than that was that you're not going to bring your nervous system regulation by yourself. Never going to 100% get there on your own. And so I would have to say that the community of women that I learned from and with were the best part of the experience, because learning to be vulnerable with them and in front of them, that was the most important part of the work. I could have done all of the breath work on my own, but if I wasn't vulnerable enough to show up and be real in front of other people, I don't think I would have had the same level of healing.
I cannot agree more with you. And it's interesting. I ask everyone that question, and almost everyone, not everyone, but I would say 90% of the people have been through the program say the same thing, that there is something very powerful when a safe space is created. And I do think we do a really good job of creating a safe space. And when you have that support and you are able to start to shed off some of the layers and be really vulnerable, it does. It's almost like sometimes I think it's hard to even put into words what that is like, because it's not something that I think, at least I know I hadn't experienced for the most part of my life anywhere until I was in a container somewhat like the one I have created, where for the first time I felt like I could really take off the masks and just be me.
Yeah, and I think anxiety is very isolating, and it causes us to want to hide a lot of things from a lot of people. We're not showing our ugly, and we only want to show, like on social media, all of our highlight reels and all of the things that we'll celebrate. And that's why when we have something to celebrate, it's like it's a blip and I got 87 likes and we moved on. But when something bad happens to me and it happens alone and I have nowhere to process it and no one to lean on, then I dwell on that for a lot longer, and that sits with me for a lot longer. And then that further dysregulates me, because I spent 10 seconds focused on win and 10 days focused on this loss. And I had everybody there celebrating my win and I have nobody there supporting the loss. So you really do need to learn to bring everything to the table in your relationships, and
100%
safe space to be able to practice and regulate and learn with somebody. I think that was big for me. I wanted to do everything on my own always. It was part of one of my coping mechanisms for my trauma diagnosis. So
it makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's safer to do it on your own than to lean into support.
I don't think that typically we've ever, as society as a whole, really embraced sitting with people in vulnerable moments.
Amen to that. I think most people are very uncomfortable with it. So they change the subject, or they just, holding space is just something that isn't, it should be taught, but it's not.
And so when you have people that want to come along and minimize your pain and with the best of intentions to try to make you feel better, because we're conditioned to believe that happiness should be our default setting. And so just being able to acknowledge and embrace that all feelings are important and all feelings need to be felt, and all feelings deserve to be held with the same reverence. you know, to be in that group together was really, really incredible and really, really healing.
I love that. Oh, I love hearing that.
That's what I'm most excited about with having a brick and mortar, is that I'll be able to get groups together for some really powerful healing. So
yeah, in person, there is a really magical, it's magical. I mean, I've had a brick and mortar, and I don't want to ever diminish that. And, you know, I'm fortunate that I can do things virtually. I would have never met some amazing people like you. But there is something quite magical also about having people in a space together. And I know that's your, what feels right for you. And I always encourage everyone to do, there's no right or wrong way to do this. And I love that you found that space, and you aren't just keeping this to yourself, and you were able to see maybe outside of what was originally the box of what you thought it had to be. And now you're able to actually create and lean in towards this new adventure.
And I've been I've spent a fair amount of time explaining to other people, and as soon as I do, they stop me. They go, "Oh, I can't meditate. I can never."
I always want to be like, no, you do it already. You just don't realize.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about what the breath work is and how to do it. And I was like, there are so many different kinds of meditation where you don't have to sit quietly for 60 minutes and not think about things.
Yeah.
And just trying to expand people's perception and definition to be able to say, you absolutely can, you absolutely have, and I can show you many ways in which you do, where you don't need to turn off your mental chatter, or you can start to just become aware of your mental awareness, that you have chatter, that you can then start to step back and question and examine and decide which of that mental chatter actually works for you, and which of it is automatic patterns that are coming back into play because your nervous system is not properly regulated at the moment.
So I am so if you're listening and you're anywhere in Buffalo, you need to reach out to Nicole and go visit her on Monday, or maybe not Monday, but Tuesday. Just kidding, Nicole. In your space. But you definitely
boxes, but I'll be there all summer.
Come reach out to her and get a little taste of this magic that she's creating. I am so excited for your community. They are in for like the best thing ever. They really are. I just can't wait for your community.
It's been life-changing.
Yeah. So Nicole, if someone's listening right now and maybe they're thinking about joining in August, because we start in August again, what would you tell them? What would your advice for them be? Maybe they're nervous, or they're like, I'm not sure if this is for me, or, you know, I don't even know if I want to be a coach. Kind of like that world that you were bouncing back and forth from.
I'm going to go full teacher. I'll bring in my stories and my analogies. So when I first started working with Rachel, I had one analogy, and that was the analogy of Indiana Jones and the Invisible Bridge. Do you remember me mentioning that to you, Rachel? That I
100% do, Nicole.
There was like that huge crevasse, and they had to get to the cave, and they had to step where there was no bridge. And every step he took, another step would appear, but he had to step over like the thin air. And I felt like I was doing that at first because I didn't know the direction that I was heading, and it was very scary. And I kept taking these blind steps, and I didn't know where I was going. And then I came across a better metaphor after sitting in class for like 4 or 5 months. And I came back and I was like, I want to change my metaphor. I have a new metaphor. It's so much better than the Indiana Jones one. I love you, Indy. With a different one. We'll retire Indy. My other metaphor was, when I get in the car to go on a road trip, I don't see every turn that I'm taking, and I don't see every road that I'm driving down, and I don't see every roadblock that's going to get in my way, every accident or construction that's going to get in my way. I just trust that I'm going to get to where I'm going. I'm going to get there safely. And my headlights are going to show me this much of my journey. And that's all I get to see, because that's all I need to see at any given moment in time. There's going to be different turns, and there's going to be different obstacles, but I don't need to see those up front, because some later version of me is going to be ready for them when they get there. I'm going to see just this much that the headlights are going to show me. And that's all the faith that I need to have at the start of this journey. I get right into that car, and I'm just going to take it as far as the headlights show me. And I'm going to wait for the next thing to become available to me. And if you just lean into the work just from day one and try to embrace resetting your body and try to fight against it, because I did, kicking and screaming. I tried to come at it.
And that's okay too.
I wore myself down because I realized how much I needed like the brain, body, soul connection. I needed all three pieces, and I couldn't come at it with more of one to make up for less of another. And the sooner that I just embraced only knowing this much, the better life got, the easier.
So if I hear you correctly and someone's listening, if you have like the inclination, just know that you only need to know this much, and the rest of it you will know as you need. But if this much is pulling you towards this, then you should go ahead and take that first step.
If you're being called to it, it's because you need it. You need to receive it. You need to see how magical it is. And you're going to want to use it to change others. I really came in at it for myself.
I agree, because I had a very similar experience.
Maybe it'll be a side gig. I'll do it at night.
Side hustle.
It'll be a nice little side gig for me. And I was like, no, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. This is the culmination. This pulled it all together for me.
Oh, I love that. Oh, thank you so much, Nicole, for showing up, being vulnerable with a bunch of strangers here online, millions, right? Because we have no idea how many people are ever watching, and sharing your experience, where you were at, how far you have come. I am so unbelievably proud. One of these days I'm going to make it up to upstate New York again, and because I did go to school up there. And I'm going to get to see your beautiful space and get to be a part of all of it. Oh, so if you're in Buffalo, go check out Nicole. If you're not in Buffalo, still follow her on social, because she posts a lot of amazing stuff. And if you're thinking of joining the somatic coach certification, you got, I don't know, maybe 2 more weeks to make that decision. And then the doors will close. And I can tell you that I don't think the price will ever be what it is now again, because I just keep adding more juice to it. And I don't know. The more juice, eventually at some point, that means got to add a little more price to it. So take advantage now while you can. And like Nicole said, if you just have a little bit of an inclination that this is the direction, just take that first step. I promise you won't regret it.
You won't regret it.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much. Everyone have a fantastic day. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to reach out to Nicole and talk to her, find her on social media. I'm pretty sure she'll talk to you. All my people, they will tell you without me present all the truth, because I know when we're present, they're like, oh yeah, she probably, set her up for all this. No, I did not. But anyways, that's just the truth. She will give you the whole inside, outside, behind the scenes scope.
You won't be sorry that you did the work. Yeah. It's so supporting. Thank you, Rachel, for everything.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. All right, everyone, have a fantastic day. Nicole, I'll see you later. Bye, all.
Bye.